Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Today we are going to read chapter 13 in Because of Winn-Dixie. Before we do, there is a word that comes up in this chapter. The word is retarded. We know that today it's not a word that we like to use to describe people because it's derogatory, which means it's just not a good word to use when describing people, and it can be very inconsiderate and very rude. But with the timeline in this story, the word retarded was more acceptable to use back then, so that's why it shows up, and it just means ignorant is what it means. So I just wanted to warn you that that word is going to show up, and although we don't use it today because it's used in our text, we're just going to take it for how it is, but I just wanted to warn you before we get started. Alright, so we are going to start with chapter 13, which is on page 87. So go ahead and open up your books and we will get started with chapter 13. Alright, here we go. Me and Winn-Dixie got into a daily routine where we would leave the trailer early in the morning and get down to Gertrude's Pets in time to hear Otis play his guitar music for the animals. Sometimes Sweetie Pie snuck in for the concert too. She sat on the floor and wrapped her arms around Winn-Dixie and rocked him back and forth like he was a big old teddy bear. And then, when the music was over, she would walk around trying to pick out which pet she wanted, but she always gave up and went home because the only thing she really wanted was a dog like Winn-Dixie. After she was gone, I would sweep and clean up and even arrange some of Otis's shelves, because he did not have an eye for arranging things and I did. And when I was done, Otis would write down my time in a notebook that he had marked on the outside. 1 red leather collar, 1 red leather leash. And the whole time he did not in any way ever act like a criminal. After working at Gertrude's Pets, me and Winn-Dixie would go over to the Herman W. Block Memorial Library and talk to Miss Franny Block and listen to her to tell us a story. But my favorite place to be that summer was in Gloria Dump's yard. And I figured it was Winn-Dixie's favorite place to be too, because when we got up to the last block before her house, Winn-Dixie would break away from my bike and start to run for all he was worth, heading for Gloria Dump's backyard and his spoonful of peanut butter. Sometimes Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry would follow me. They would holler, "There goes the preacher's daughter visiting the witch." "She's not a witch," I told them. It made me mad the way they wouldn't listen to me and kept on believing whatever they wanted to believe about Gloria Dump. One time, Stevie said to me, "My mama says you shouldn't be spending all your time cooped up in that pet shop and at that library, sitting around talking with old ladies. She says you should get out in the fresh air and play with kids your own age. That's what my mama says." "Oh, lay off her," Dunlap said to Stevie. Then he turned to me. "He don't mean it," he said. But I was already mad. I shouted at Stevie. I said, "I don't care what your mama says. She's not my mama, so she can't tell me what to do." "I'm going to tell my mama you said that," shouted Stevie, "and she'll tell your daddy and he'll shame you in front of the whole church. And that pet shop man is retarded and he was in jail, and I wonder if your daddy knows that." "Otis is not retarded," I said, "and my daddy knows that he was in jail." That was a lie, but I didn't care. "And you can go ahead and tell on me if you want, you big bald-headed baby." I swear it about wore me out yelling at Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry every day. By the time I got to Gloria Dump's yard, I felt like a soldier who had been fighting a hard battle. Gloria would make me a peanut butter sandwich straight off, and then she would pour me a cup of coffee with half coffee and half milk, and that would refresh me. "Why don't you play with them boys?" Gloria asked me. "Because they're ignorant," I told her. they still think you're a witch. It doesn't matter how many times I tell them you're not. I think they are just trying to make friends with you in a roundabout way, Gloria said. I don't want to be their friend, I said. It might be fun having them two boys for friends. I'd rather talk with you, I said. They're stupid and mean, and they're boys. Gloria would shake her head and sigh, and then she would ask me what was going on in the world, and did I have any stories to tell her. And I always did. Alright, that is chapter 13. What I would like us to do next is to go over some vocabulary words. We have 2 to go over today. The first one that we're going to do, let's see, we're going to do numbers 23 and 24 on the vocabulary, so it's criminal and roundabout. We're going to go over roundabout together, and then you'll do criminal on your own. But first, what we're going to do is see if we can find roundabout in chapter 13 and use the context clues like we always do to see if that'll help us come up with what our definition should be. Alright, so let's look at chapter 13 and look at page 91 is where it's used. So it's the last page of chapter 13. Alright, and we're going to read, we'll start with the second paragraph, and we're going to read, hold this up for you, we're going to read the second paragraph and part of the third. Alright, so go ahead and get out your books. Second paragraph of page 91. We're trying to figure out what the word roundabout means. Because they're ignorant, I told her. They still think you're a witch. It doesn't matter how many times I tell them you're not. I think they are just trying to make friends with you in a roundabout way, Gloria said. I don't want to be their friend, I said. Alright, so the word roundabout was used in that sentence where Gloria said, I think they're just trying to make friends with you in a roundabout way. So think about what roundabout means. One thing that might help you is when driving, I don't know if you've ever seen one, but a roundabout is something where you go straight up if you're driving in a road, but then all of a sudden you come to this thing that looks like a big circle, and then you might have to wait for other traffic to come around in the circle, and then you can go. So that's a roundabout. So it means it's not a straight, direct route. Alright? So when we say that Stevie and Dunlap were not going in a roundabout way to become friends with Opal, we mean not following a short, direct route. Meaning, instead of being kind and nice to Opal and becoming friends with her easily, that's a short, direct way to become friends with someone. If you're nice, if you're kind, if you try to do the same, interested in the same things that they are, it's a really easy way to make a friend. What they're doing, though, is they're making fun of her, they're following her, they're kind of being a little mean to her. So if they are trying to become friends with her, it is not in a short, direct way. Alright? So that is what the word roundabout means and how it was used in the text. Your word that I want you to define on your own is criminal. It's also used in chapter 12, so if you have to look back at that chapter as well, that's fine. But see if you can define the word criminal by yourself. And then that will be the only other vocabulary word that you have to work on today. Our next item of business is what I would like you to do today, if you have time. This isn't required, so you don't have to if you don't want to. But you know how much I love doing those 3 cartoons with a sentence because I feel like it's a fun way to kind of summarize or to just demonstrate a certain concept or a certain topic that we're talking about. So what I would like you to do is make a 3-picture cartoon, or you could do more if you want, of what your daily routine looks like. Because remember, in this chapter, it discussed what Opal's daily routine was. I remember it talked about her waking up early to get to the pet shop to work with Otis, sweeping, dusting. And then she would go to Franny's to hear stories be told to her. And then she would normally end her day going to Gloria's and telling her stories. So that's a little bit of her schedule. What I would like to know is, what is your schedule like? So maybe you'll have three little blocks to put your pictures in. And then you can create lines, or if you're doing outline paper, you can just use those lines as well to write your sentences. And show me using pictures and just and then explaining what those pictures mean. Maybe a daily routine of what life is like today, during the whole pandemic. Maybe you can tell me what it was like before the pandemic if you want. But I think it would be a cool way for you to see what your daily routine is like. Maybe what do you focus most of your time on? What would you rather focus your time on? So think back to how Opal described her daily routine. If you have to go back in chapter 13, feel free. But then I would love to have you guys send me some pictures and show me what your daily routine looks like. And last but not least, to finish off today, the questions that go with chapter 13, I believe there's only one. Let me double check. There are two, but it's just questions 4 and 5. Alright, so the questions that are due this week for chapters 11 through 15, you just have questions 4 and 5. Alright, so question 4 says, describe Opal's and Winn-Dixie's daily routine that summer. Alright, what she tells you specifically straight out of the text. And then number 5 says, why does Opal get mad at Stevie? Alright, remember there is something specific that Stevie said to Opal that really set her off. See if you can find that in the text, alright? So just questions 4 and 5 today. You only have 3 questions left after today. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me personally through our messages, or you can just ask me in the comments below, alright? But you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.